Good evening, everybody. It is, well, it's still technically Thursday. It's going to be Friday here very soon. It must be a full moon. I made this video once. I couldn't get it to upload. Okay, I go to remake it again. I get about 4 minutes into remaking the video and realized I didn't hit record. So heaven help me, I'm going to get it. The third time will be the charm. Heaven help me. And on top of that, a couple of days ago, I believe I managed to find myself some poison ivy in February in North Carolina and leave it to me to, I think I've broken out on my arms with poison ivy. Leave it to me. Oh, yeah. The joys of living in the south of the U.S. You get poison ivy in February. Only I could do that. Okay, enough of that. So, on to our story for today, which is last week I did the video on Stella Liebeck, the lady that had got burnt by the McDonald's coffee. That was from back in 1992. If you were old, of a certain age and older, you would have heard about that because, oh good Lord, everybody was talking about it. And poor Miss Liebeck she was just made to look so bad for so long because of that, because it was reported incorrectly for so long that and facts were left out of it, that she really had actually got burnt significantly. She had third-degree burns. It was, they didn't even report how it happened correctly. And it's just a perfect example of something that, a legitimate injury that did happen. Had nothing to do with being frivolous. And yet this poor old lady couldn't even clear her good name when it came down to it, because she couldn't talk about it once the court case was final. And then we come to today's episode, kind of in the total other direction, with the case of the finger in the Wendys chili case. It happened in 2005. It claimed to have happened to a lady by the name of Ayala. She was from Vegas, but she was in San Jose visiting relatives. They go to Wendy's to get something to eat. She orders chili. She puts her crackers in there. She takes a bite. It's okay. Takes another bite. Everything's still okay. Hits the third bite. And lo and behold, she bites into something crunchy. And finally she spits it out and then realizes, oh my God, I've tried to eat a finger. To which it is reported that she at this point gets up and starts yelling and telling all the customers, oh my God, stop eating. Found a finger in my food. Food's contaminated. Oh my God, everybody just stop eating. She goes to the counter. She takes her food there and the finger and is showing it to the employees of the restaurant. And, they're like, well, you sure? Gosh, it kind of, could it be a vegetable? What is it? And so finally they decide, okay, somebody decides, well, we should call the cops. So they call the cops. Cops get there, and after some conversation, the cops are like, well, we really feel it's probably more of something for the health department, not so much for us at this point. So somebody calls the health department. And so obviously, pretty much as soon as it happened, the restaurant's closed. They closed the restaurant. Nobody's eating until they get this figured out. So during this time, when they're with the cops and with the health department, they're not serving anybody until they can get to the bottom of what's going on. So the health department did verify that it was a finger. An added note, the health department said the finger had not been cooked, and that also there was no saliva found on the finger. So, that finger could not have been in the chili, really, at much of any part of the process of whether being cooked at the restaurant, because evidently it's simmered for a long period of time at the restaurant, plus the whole cooking process at before it even gets there from the vendors and stuff like that. So that's where the health department gets initially. Wendy's did their own internal audit of the store itself, where supposedly, or where the incident happened, and were able to verify that there was nothing that happened at the store level that would have caused this to happen, for somebody's finger to end up in the food. They also did audits of all of the vendors, and in no way, shape, or form, anywhere, anyhow, did anything happen with any of the vendors that would have caused a finger to end up in anything also. So, if it's not the store, if it's not the vendors, where does that leave you? Well, that pretty much means somebody somewhere along the lines is lying. So, at this point, since they've already ruled out, as far as they're concerned, at this point, ruled out the restaurant itself, the specific location, and the vendors, all the eyes turned to Miss Ayala. And so they thought, okay, well, we're going to have to start checking into her background, see if there's anything we can come up from her end that might explain this. So the police were having trouble tracking down who the finger actually belonged to. There was initially some speculation that it could have come from one of Miss Ayala's dead aunts. That wasn't it. And then speculation that there was a woman named Sandy Allman who recently had lost a finger when she was bitten by a leopard. She lived about 60 miles from Las Vegas, and the finger disappeared at the hospital. So that seemed, like a promising direction. But they did a DNA test, and they proved this finger was not Sandy, so that ruled that one out. With no leads, and Wendys showing that it wasn't connected, because they've already done all their audits and everything. So, now they're, okay, we got to really check into Miss Ayala's background. At this point, when they dig into her past, they saw that this wasn't the first time she was connected with cases like this. She had a number of cases against of several companies. One with a Ford Motor Company. She had a case that she won against El Pollo Loco, where she said that her daughter got sick from eating there. And let's see here. Whew. So, with these things in her background, it was just a big red flag. She's already had incidents involving symbols, or not necessarily involving a finger, but involving accusations made at other companies. So the cops decided to get a search warrant and to search her home to see if maybe they could find anything out there. So they don't really, they do the search and they don't really announce anything after that. And then, lo and behold, they had, after they did the search warrant on April 21st, 2005, Anna is arrested out of the blue. Like I said, they didn't say anything about anything happening or anything they found. She's arrested for felony, grand larceny, and grand theft. The grand theft charges are related to an old incident where she had tried to sell her husband's trailer that wasn't hers to sell to somebody for like $11,000. So that was the grand theft. She was trying to milk this woman out of her money for something she couldn't sell her. And then the grand larceny was related to something that Wendys had gotten on their tip line. Well, Wendys was offering like a $100,000 reward for information leading to who was responsible for this finger in the chili. Well, there was a fella by the name of Brian Paul Rossiter that had made a tip to the tip line. He is a friend of Anna's and her husband, Anna and her husband, and former owner of said finger that ended up in the chili. He had lost his finger in 2004, and legend has it that he owed them money. He was in debt to them for something, and him relinquishing his amputated finger to them was like partial pay, or at least payment, or some sort of payment for this debt owed to them. And I also saw somewhere where they supposedly gave him $100 for the finger also. And Mr. Rossiter also claims that he was offered by Anna and her husband $250,000 if he wouldn't talk, if he wouldn't say anything about everything that he was involved with. Okay, so let's see. So now the got this tip that she they bought this finger from this guy. What do you figure the odds are that, somebody's going to randomly purchase somebody's amputated finger, and then this person, coincidentally, within a year or so, happens to be eating at a restaurant and then happens to find a finger on their food that nobody can, establish within the restaurant's side of things where this finger came from? What are the odds? There's I think, anybody would say that there's only one reason why this finger was purchased by Miss Ayala, and it was for what eventually happened at Wendys. So, at this point, Anna and her husband were both charged. Anna was charged with, conspiracy and grand theft, and she got 9 years. Her husband got 12 years for conspiracy. The damages exceeded $2.5 million. Anna got out after 4 years, but she ended up back in prison because of another fraud scam. Her son, Guadalupe, he was a felon, or, well, I guess he'd still be a felon. He had a firearm that he shouldn't have had because he's a felon, and he somehow had managed to accidentally shoot himself in the ankle with the gun. Anna implicated 2 men, saying that they shot him to take the fault off her son, which of course, obviously it was a lie. So she went to prison for another 2 years in 2013 because of that. And there was 3 charges related to that case when she was sent to prison for that. So Wendys had been saying at the time, for like the first month or so, because they said they were losing like $1 million a day, and that after the first month they had lost $31 million because they were just getting an insane amount of bad press from this. I mean, like I said, everybody heard about it. It was like if we had memes back then, this would have been a meme. This would have been a meme in a big way. But because of all of this massive amount of bad publicity that they had gotten, and the dozens of employees that they had to, in Northern California, that they had to lay off because of all this, Anna and her husband were ordered to pay $21.8 million to Wendys International and gym management. The companies agreed to not collect the money as long as she didn't benefit financially from the story. Which, I would assume that that's probably something that's got to happen with some frequency when it comes to stuff like this, because, what better motivator, I guess, to keep people from not shutting up about something is to have a whole bunch of money hanging over their head that, they might have to pay if they don't stay within certain boundaries. So, I guess that would be a pretty good idea right there. So, anyway, that's about the end of that there. But again, just to kind of tie this all back together, again with Miss Liebeck, you have the elderly lady that had the truly upfront and factual instance, the case of what happened to her, being injured, and it not being a frivolous lawsuit, and she kind of got the raw end of the deal. Well, no pun intended. From the public perspective for a long time, because nobody knew what really happened because it wasn't being reported. And then you have a company that got just a tremendously huge amount of bad publicity from something because of somebody just trying to scam, actually trying to scam money from them by being fraudulent in what they were doing. So, if we'd had, the things we have available today with the, online and all the social media and everything, God, it may have, even as bad as it was then, it would have been, it would have been way worse now, the things that would have happened. But I'm going to throw get some pictures up there of everybody involved in the cases. I'm going to repost some pictures from Miss Liebeck's video that I did last week, just in case you haven't got back to watch it yet. And I would suggest to take a look at it, because, if it was a really long time before I even realized the extent to which what was involved with Stella Liebeck's case, because for a long time I was, you could only go by what you were given, and we didn't have online back then. You couldn't, the national news was reporting this, and there's also a really good documentary about Miss Stella Liebeck's case, which is called Hot Coffee. You should be able to find it online. It may not be streaming. You may have to do a pay-per-view sort of a thing for it, rent it, what have you. But it is really worth watching, and it actually created changes the way like juries are dealt with in cases like that, because so many people for so long had such a distorted view of what the case was actually about. Okay, so that's it. I'm sorry for tonight. I was a little bit more, a little bit more kind of all over the place because of my poison ivy. I'm a little itchy, so I apologize for that. And thank you for watching and coming to see what I had to say again tonight. And I'd really appreciate it if you threw me a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do that as well. I'd really sincerely appreciate it. All right, so happy Friday to everybody. Have a great weekend. I hope everybody's makes it through all the horrible weather and everything in one piece. All right, so thank you for watching, and I will see y'all later. Bye.